typed it in. I'm seeing if I can. What kind of goats are these?
Okay. The goat in the middle of the picture, right underneath questions, is called a La Mancha. Also, the bottom right photo is a La Mancha, and their trademark is they don't really have very much ear cartilage. They're from Spain originally, and they are slightly smaller than some of the breeds, and they also give a fair amount of butter fat, so they're good for cheese making. Because they don't have their ears, they're a less favored breed, which for me has made it easier to find ones that are really nice milkers that have, they give a lot of milk, but their milk also tastes really good. So I've been really happy with them, and their personalities have been my favorite. The two on the outer ends are called Fables, and they are, I think technically they're an experimental breed right now, but they are Saanens that have had color bred into them. So Saanens are typically all white, and these guys will come in a variety of different colors, which means that Saanens are the goats that usually give the most amount of milk as far as volume goes. So these guys that I picked up, I have 3 of them. They're all really strong, really great milkers, and I've been really happy with them as well.
Okay, I have several other questions now. Amanda also asked, how do you put your own labor into cost of goods sold? Do you track your hours and pay yourself an hourly wage, or is it just a certain amount per month or week?
The way that I've done it for now, I definitely do not break it down by the hour because I would probably cry at how much I got paid. But I do, basically what I did was, rather than put it directly into the computer per se, I took all of my regular cost of goods sold and got the number that I have to make just to break even on the cheese. And then I chose how much to raise that price based on wanting to be compensated for what I was doing. So it wasn't an exact number. It's just something that, like, let's say that you find out if you sell your product for $8, then that's your break-even point with your cost of goods sold. Well, you want to make more than $8, but you can't necessarily just double it to 16 because that's what you want to make. So what I've tried to do, part of growing the farm slowly means that I've also slowly added to the amount that I will take for pay. So the first 5 years I ran the farm, I worked off the farm sometimes 5 days a week. Then I went down to 4 days a week. Then I went down to 3 days a week. Then I held it there for 3 years. And as I've scaled back in working off the farm, I've scaled up in taking from the farm account as it's been allotted. And I have a goal for what my salary will be for running the farm. And I'm still pretty far from it, which I think is where the diversification comes in. But it's more, I guess, rather than a direct formula, it's just being aware that that's something that needs to be factored into it. And I don't feel like with farming, with how many hours you put into it, that you can necessarily do it by the hour. But I don't know if that was helpful.
Oh, I think so, definitely. I have a couple more. Dawn asks, have you ever made yogurt from the goat's milk?
I have made yogurt from goat's milk. Mine ended up being a little runnier than what I like for regular yogurt. It was more like kefir. And I've talked to several people about it, and that apparently is common for goat's milk. And the way that they get it to thicken up is to add tapioca powder. But I haven't actually had time to remake the yogurt again, so I've kind of, that's on my list of things to possibly make at some point because I feel like there is an interest for it, but I haven't played around with it too much.
Okay, I've got a comment and a question from Janice. Janice also raises goats, and Janice is going to talk to us a little bit later about what she learned today in this course. She says, could she come and visit you sometime? She wants to be friends with other goat people, so you might hear from her someday. But she does have a question. She says, how do you market the kids?
How do I market the kids? That is really tricky. It's different every year. I've relied pretty heavily on Craigslist and also some networking. Definitely take my number and email address. I'm happy to talk to you about things. I have someone different every year that takes my kids. I haven't found a buyer yet that will take them. This is actually the first year that I don't actually have a buyer, which means that tomorrow they are going to Lewiston to the sale because that's the closest one I can take them to, and I have about 40 or 45 on the ground right now, and I can't make keys. So that's actually kind of a bummer because I don't know. I like knowing where they're going, and with the sale, I don't necessarily know. Every year in the past, I've had someone take them. There was a lady down the road for me that raised goats. It took them 1 year because she had excess milk, and she raised them and resold them as they got older. And I had another guy down the road end up doing the same thing that had some extra cow's milk. So those worked out nice because they bought they bought all of them, essentially, which made it less stressful. I did find a couple of buyers on Craigslist that did it that way as well. And I've also sold some through their base where they just want a couple of kids. And what I do to help them sell, if I know that they're going to a good home and they're going to be someone's pet or someone's milk goat, I cut them a deal. I don't sell them. I don't paper them, so they're not worth as much to them, but I make it affordable so they can buy them for their kids and bottle feed them and raise them up that way, because I'd rather get a little less for the goats and know they're going to a good place. But that is definitely one of the trickier things, and I've also noticed that with the La Manchas, because they are a less popular goat, it's harder to sell the kids, where if I had Nubians, I would find a lot more homes through private sources with Craigslist. I have so many people ask me if I have Nubian babies. So, some of that could have to do with what you have too, but I'm a really big believer in Craigslist for everything.
Well, that was great. That's the last of the questions, and really appreciate you helping us out today. That was a really good story about how you've grown over the years and how this course helped you, and we appreciate you sharing that with us. So we'll let you go milk your goats, and thank you again.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and if anybody ends up thinking of a question, they can always email me or call me later. I'm happy to help any way I can.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.